Donald Trump made quite a loud statement at the meeting with Zelensky and repeated it at the meeting with Macron. Ukraine can win the war and retake all territories seized by Russia. Many experts and commentators saw this as a sharp change in the position of the American president. But a day later, when emotions had settled a bit, many noticed that in all of Donald Trump's fiery speeches about Ukraine's victory, there was not a single word about the continuation of support for Ukraine from the United States of America. On the contrary, Donald Trump emphasized that Ukraine is left only with the support of the European Union. Some commentators are already confidently stating that Trump is simply washing his hands of the situation and will no longer actively seek peace. Others say that this is just the beginning of a transformation in the American president's mindset. Be that as it may, support for Ukraine really remains only from Europe, while from Trump we have only heard loud admonitions. Let's figure out what is really behind the words of the American president. Now, a day after these fiery speeches, when the emotions have settled a bit, we can calmly analyze the specifics of what the American president meant by these words. My name is Pechiy. Today is September 24th. And before we start this episode, I want to remind you that on this YouTube channel, we publish several news analysis segments about events around the world almost every day. So that you stay up to date with absolutely all the news, I recommend you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, subscribe to the Telegram channel Pechiy News. The link is in the description of this video. There, we post breaking news as it comes in. So, the Telegraph today writes quite clearly, this was astonishing even by the standards of the unpredictable United States president, known for his ability to surprise both allies and enemies. After several months of statements to Ukraine that its lands in the east should be given to Russia and that it is time to agree to peace, Donald Trump, during a day of speeches and meetings at the United Nations in New York, put forward a striking new position. Quote, I believe that Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is capable of fighting, winning and reclaiming all the captured territories. By restoring Ukraine to its original state, with time, patience and financial support from Europe and especially NATO, the original borders from which this war began can very well be restored, says Donald Trump. And here's what's interesting. Trump delivered his message after meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen, which suggests to us that this position was coordinated with Brussels. This was preceded by 2 days of soft diplomacy during his state visit to the United Kingdom. Back on September 17, when the King of the United Kingdom politely reminded Trump at a banquet in Windsor Castle that tyranny once again threatens Europe. Well, of course, many immediately concluded that the President of the United States had made a stunning turnaround by supporting Ukraine's victory and the restoration of its borders. But a day after these statements, a number of questions arise. Is the President of the United States really tired of Vladimir Putin? Putin has often praised Donald Trump while simultaneously attacking Ukrainian territory with missiles and drones. By the way, about what? According to Trump himself, the First Lady of the United States, Melania Trump, has pointed this out to him more than once. Does he really support Ukraine and Zelensky now, whom he once humiliated in the Oval Office? Well, to some extent, a certain understanding between Trump and Zelensky has clearly emerged, and we have seen a lot of flattering words from both Trump and the White House staff towards Volodymyr Zelensky. Trump has spoken a lot about his admiration for the bravery of the Ukrainian army, and at the same time he has talked a lot about the Russian Federation's economy collapsing. And now is the perfect time for the armed forces of Ukraine to take advantage of this moment and strike at the Russian occupiers to drive them out of the holy Ukrainian land. All of this sounds quite logical, but the key point is that Trump shifted all the responsibility for helping in these processes onto the European Union. Trump's speech at the United Nations General Assembly and his subsequent post on the social network Truth Social made it clear that the facts on the ground did not impress him. Because of Russia's inability to defeat, as he said, a weaker opponent, later that same day, in his comments, he called Russia a paper tiger. In Russia, people are understandably outraged, asking how this happened and why Donald Trump changed his position. But then Trump inserted a phrase that kind of hints that from this moment on, he's just an outside observer. Later he writes, quote, "In any case, I wish both countries all the best. We will keep supplying NATO with weapons for it to use as it wishes." Good luck to everyone. This part of the message reveals Trump's main point. Instead of promising new support for Ukraine or stepping up actions against Russia, Trump apparently hands the situation over to Europe and NATO. There are no hints of additional support for Ukraine or that he will punish Moscow any further. Here is his only commitment: to continue selling American weapons to allies. It's not a turning point. And here I'll give you another quote from the Telegraph. By putting his reputation on the line to bring the dictator Putin to Alaska for negotiations and putting himself at the center of the talks, Trump learned a hard lesson. Ending a war is difficult. Looks like he's had enough already. Cable News Network also notes, quote, "President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky has shifted from one impossible demand to another. He is no longer asked to make unpleasant land concessions for which Ukraine has lost thousands defending. Instead, he is being pushed toward the impossible task of reclaiming territories that Ukraine was unable to take back in the summer of 2023 during a carefully prepared counteroffensive. None of these options is easy, nor will they prolong Zelensky's position or strengthen Ukraine. Well, although Trump's statement was welcomed in Europe, it indicates that the European Union actually understands that the entire burden is now on their shoulders. The High Representative of the European Union, Kaja Kallas, stated that the European Union is positive about Trump's recent statements. I'll quote her, "These are the right things. Yes, we must stop buying Russian energy resources. Yes, Ukraine must win the war. And all the other statements that Trump made regarding Ukraine and Russia are correct." Indeed, it's good that now we have a common understanding. Of course, as I already said, all global players must increase pressure on Russia to stop this war, because it's obvious that they are only escalating the situation and do not want peace. Therefore, any actions in this direction from all participants would be wonderful. I'll leave it at that. And, friends, I'd like to ask you to write in the comments how you perceive the statement of the American President Donald Trump. Do you believe his words or not? Write in the comments. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all for now.